This computer. Here we go. Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're very honored to have with us tonight for our special Wednesday interviews, Rabbi Chaim Fogelman. As you see in his background, he is at the OK Kosher World Headquarters. So first and foremost, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, to share with us some insights into the world of kashrus, which is getting more and more prevalent, thank God, more and more kosher products. Can you start off, give us like an idea, how many companies are certified? Like, I'll give you a rough number by the OK.
So when it comes to the OK, which is the OK Kosher certification, we really count it nor by companies, but by facilities. Because just because a company might be very famous or very well known, not necessarily is a lot of work, or is it take more from us to certify it. By us, we look at per facility. We certify today well over 5,000 facilities.
Wow. 5,000 facilities. How does it work? I mean, does the OK go and seek out a company? They see a product in the store that doesn't have certification and go, hey, wouldn't you guys like to be kosher? Do they come to you? What motivates, a craft or something to seek out kashrus? It would seem to be a pretty small niche, a group of people. What is the process for that?
So in general, there are many, many different kosher certifying agencies. And most people are surprised and shocked to know how many agencies there are. Some people say 10, 15, 20. There are actually over 1,200 kosher supervising agencies. And basically, there isn't really anybody governing who can be an agency or who cannot be an agency. If you want to be a certifying rabbi, and if people will trust you, then you could be a certifying rabbi, get a website and get a stationery and good luck and see what happens. So many different certifications, and there's many different ways how people do it. I could tell you how it's done here at the OK. At the OK, in principle, we don't go to solicit accounts, meaning we don't go to a company and say, become kosher. It'll up your sales. It'll give you 7 years of good luck. No, we don't do that. And the reason why we don't do that is because we strongly believe that in order for a company to be kosher and to continue to be kosher, they want to have the desire to sell a kosher product. So they need to come to us and say, listen, rabbis, we would like to make our product kosher. That's not to say that we're going to hide in our basement, or we're not going to be available, and we're not going to go to food trade shows where people are looking for kosher. No, we're going to be available. We're going to be on the internet. We're going to be on social media. We'll be available for any company or any consumer that wants to know about kosher. We're there. But to go and solicit the accounts, we don't do that in principle.
So what happens? Let's say some new company, whatever product they make, they call you up and they say, we want to be kosher. And, they're Gentiles. They don't know what that means. So what happens?
So what happens is that the first thing that they need to do is they contact us. And when our rabbi, or let's say the new division, people that set up these companies, will speak to them, the first question they're going to ask them is, tell me about your product. What is the product that you're making, and how do you make it? And then we're going to ask them to give us a detailed list of all their ingredients, of the things they are using, like the recipes, how they make their product. From this initial conversation, we will be able to determine, is this a product that is inherently kosher, a product which is inherently not kosher, or something that can be certified as kosher? Obviously, for example, if a company calls us and they have tallow in their product, we know right then and there that we can't certify this product because tallow will never be kosher.
What's tallow?
Animal fat.
You said no fat jokes. Oh, sorry.
Right. So depending on the product, we can more or less tell right off the get-go where they stand. If it's a product that has problems to become kosher, it's a problematic kosher product, then right away we would tell them this is not a product that can be made kosher unless you find a substitute for the non-kosher ingredient. Now, once they tell us all the ingredients and they will fill out the application and they will fill out their ingredients, a rabbi is going to visit the facility, physically visit the facility. And the rabbis, we have a whole team of them. We call them flying rabbis.
We got some here in Chicago.
Yeah, but we have rabbis from our main office that fly out throughout the whole world. One of our rabbis, I think, just had 1 million flown miles
Wow.
just in a very short period of time. So they really fly to wherever it needs to be, and they go to make a physical inspection at the facility. The rabbi that goes to the facility is actually looking for several different things. First, he wants to see that all the ingredients that they told us they're using are the ones that they're actually using. Then he wants to see the production. How are they making this product? And then he tries to troubleshoot and to see what might be able to go wrong, what happens in the future. Are there other products which they're making in this facility that perhaps were not requested to go kosher? Are there compatible ingredients, kosher and non-kosher? Many people think that to certify one product of a facility would be cheaper than to certify the entire facility. In actuality, the opposite is true, because for us to certify an entire facility would mean that we need a little bit less of the monitoring, and there are less things that can go wrong. So the rabbi will be there and he'll look at the ingredients and he'll look at the production, and then he will see what else can possibly be made on these same lines. Do they have a special holiday run of some kind of product which they don't even think to mention or tell us about this product, but this can jeopardize the equipment and this can jeopardize their entire kosher program. And then he has to decide, how about the equipment that's currently being used? Is the equipment good to go as is, or does it need to be kosherized? And kosherized simply means brought back to its original state, because we do not want any kind of absorption of taste of anything that was there prior to the kosher runs. And this would depend if the equipment is cold, if it's hot, if it's wet, if it's dry. They're all different kinds depending what it's made out of. And this will determine how it gets kosherized. After the rabbi gets all these, then he needs to decide also, how often does he think that this company needs to be monitored? When we say that we are certifying something, some people think that the rabbi is just coming to bless it. And for many years, I would get these calls and I would deal with the new accounts. For over 10 years, I set up new accounts as kosher. And people would say, Rabbi, could you come bless my product? And I'd say, sure, you have a speakerphone. I'll do it right now from the office. Bless it right from here. But the truth is, it's not blessing the product. It's actually what we are doing is we are here to bear witness that the protocol of kosher is adhered to. And we are here to say that the company has signed an agreement with us. We have decided and we have come to a understanding of what they can use and what they cannot use. And if they want to change something, they want to use something new, they must get that approved in writing from us before they ever use it. And this is what we come to do, is come to bear witness to say that the kosher product is made in a kosher fashion. So besides the setting up of the facility, it has to be continuously monitored. When the initial visit is done, the rabbi has to decide, how often does this facility need to be monitored? There are facilities that are monitored once a year, which is a drastic example of a thing that is very low on the problematic kashrus issue. A company that's making flour. Flour is inherently kosher, but they want a certification for many different reasons. So we'll give them a certification. A water company, bottled water, you see it all the time and has a certification. There's nothing really that can go wrong in the bottled water. It's all automated. It's not like a mom and pop operation in a garage of their house. So these are things that need less visit. Then there are companies that need to be visited 4 times a year and once a month, once a week. There are many companies that can only produce kosher if there's a rabbi present at the time. And the rabbi will have to sign his signature on the production that's made. We will get all the lot numbers. We will get everything that's done, and we will be able to keep records and know exactly the product that was made, when and where, and that it's kosher. So
do you ever have an issue where they try to sort of pull a fast one on you? They try to lie to you, deceive you? You got to call the kosher cops in. I don't know, the Hasidic SWAT team or something.
There are many different. A company like ours, which we certify today, well over 500,000 products.
Wow.
Over 500,000 products. How how far has the OK come? How did the kosher market change, or the agencies change in the past 20, 30, 40 years? 40, 50 years ago, a rabbi gave a certification. He had all the information in his head. And he knew what they certify. He knew what they make. He knew how they make him. He gave a certification and was fine. Today, that's an impossibility. It doesn't work that way. Today, we have the latest of technologies. We have computer programs. We have offices all over the world. When we make a change in our system, rabbis in Brussels and in Australia and in India see it instantly. They know right away what we're talking about. It's a dedicated group of people. We have about 70 people working here in our office, in our headquarters in New York. We have about 380 rabbis throughout the world that are either part-time or full-time. And these are people that are doing the work for us in a way. They're the soldiers on the ground. They're the eyes and ears of our organization. So today it's really, really sophisticated. When you certify 500,000 products, I mean, many times people ask me, do you certify this product? I can't remember offhand. You got to have the computer. As it is, our memory, we don't remember anything. I can't remember my mother's phone number if I don't have in the favorites quick dial.
Right.
But this is the way it is today. And we have a great team of rabbis that work with us. And I would say 95, 97% of every kosher product that you buy probably has an ingredient that was certified by the OK in that product.
So that's interesting. So even if the product, on the shelf has a different certification, the ingredients could be from facilities that are certified by the OK. So can you talk about the interaction between the various kosher certification agencies and how they cooperate or don't cooperate?
So, but before I get to that, this will lead into it. I didn't really answer your question about what happens if somebody sneaks the system and someone lies to us or something like that. The point is that with such an enormous amount of facilities and such an enormous amount of products, there's bound to be someone doing something wrong sometimes. And to say that we don't have this problem would just be fooling ourselves. So there are different ways how we deal with this. First, there are people that just put a certification on the product and they're not even certified. Unauthorized, they just do it. We have an entire department here that all they deal with is unauthorized. So yes, there are certification agencies will tell you that we don't have anybody that uses our symbol unauthorized. And that's because they're a very local certification and they certify 5 restaurants. But when you certify worldwide, for real. So every of the large organizations, they certainly have an entire department of people that are unauthorized, and they would put on a certification logo like a Circle K or in Chicago, the CRC, or whatever you might have, and they're unauthorized to do that. So how do we handle this? We're right on top of this. We have lawyers that are right on this, and we get to this very, very quickly. There are 2 kinds of products that get that can be unauthorized, and there's 2 different ways how it could happen. There are industrial products, which can be unauthorized, and then there's consumer products. Consumer products we find instantly because somebody somewhere is going to call us, you certify pork and beans?
Extra spicy?
Yeah. So we say, listen, do us a favor, send us a picture from your phone. And then we have a file of it right away and we get right on it. And then surely you've seen some alerts from our organization to say that this and this is not under our certification. And we do our best and we stretch our legal hand as much as we can to get this done. There's also sometimes when a industrial product can be unauthorized, and that's a much more difficult thing to find because people don't see that. It only goes from factory A to factory B. And that's what we have mashgichim for, and that's what we have rabbis in the field. And when a rabbi goes to make a monthly or a weekly inspection, he has an ingredient list, and he knows which products are permitted, which ingredients are permitted in this facility and which are not. If he sees the change, he'll know right away that it wasn't certified. Now, there are people that put on a certification accidentally. A printer put it on, a graphics designer said, oh, maybe it's like, recycled. That's good. What else? It's vegan. Let's do that. It's whatever. There's a lot of different kind of things that you can put on. So sometimes it happens that an honest mistake is made, and sometimes a mistake is made. There was a wrong label made. Product was parv, or a product was dairy, and the D was missing from the product, or this product was not certified, and accidentally they had put the product on. In these cases, we come down very strong, and many times you do a recall. A recall could be at the price of millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. A little while back, we had a really big company that everybody has this product on their table. Everybody. And the mashgiach, the rabbi who goes to visit, came in and also saw a new product with our logo on it. He said, "What's this? I don't have this on my list." Turns out to be that it actually wasn't a new product. It was a different product with a new carton, with a new design. And the graphic designer made a mistake. And they put a Circle K, because all their other products have a Circle K. They put it on this product. There was an immediate recall. We didn't even have to tell the company that it's be a recall. They got on it as soon as they stopped production, right there in the middle of the day. Called all the trucks back. Wherever it was already shipped out, if it wasn't delivered to stores, it was called back right away. Letters went out to all the major chains that this product needs to come back. This was a recall for well over $1 million. Wow. So if the company wants to be kosher, and they came to us to be kosher, so they don't want to mess around. They don't want to bend the rules. They don't want to go, because they won't be kosher. And now when you ask how do agencies work together, so the major agencies have a great emphasis to try our best to work together. And if a company cheats, the other agencies will know. And we don't allow one agency to play the other agency. Oh, we cheated by the first certifying agency. We'll just go to agency number 2 and get their certification, or agency number 3. The major agencies work together to make sure if somebody cheats, we all know this is a cheater and he's really not interested in kosher. Another way that agencies have to work together, because no man is an island. So unless you want to be one of those rabbis that say, I'm only going to allow you to use product that I certify, he doesn't really have the power to say that. Is he going to go to Indonesia, or is he going to go to the Philippines to go to the source of all the products? Many of the local certifications are heavily relied upon, are relied on the OK, and call us for our knowledge or for our advice and what products they can use and what products they can't use. So in the major organizations, it's a competition, but it's a very friendly competition, because no man is an island. And if we won't work together with the others and the others won't work together with us, we're just hurting the kosher consumer, and we're hurting everybody. We're hurting ourselves.
So with all of this investigation, I mean, how have you adjusted to COVID? I mean, the travel's got to be restricted, and going into facilities. And
COVID has been a nightmare, and we had suffered terribly from COVID here at the OK. Personally, the administrator of the OK was Rabbi Levy, was my father-in-law actually.
Sure. And
he was a young, healthy 72-year-old that right at the beginning of April, he was from the first people that caught the COVID, and he didn't make it. Sadly, he didn't make it. Lucky for us, the OK has grown under his leadership a tremendous amount. His father took over the Circle K in the mid 60s, let's say about 1965. It currently, at that time, it consisted of 15 companies. Rabbi Daniel Levy, which his son, my father-in-law, he took over the company when his father suddenly died in about 1986, I think, or 87. Fast forward to now, like I say, over 5,000 facilities and over 500,000 ingredients and products which we certified. It's not a one-man operation. He's built an empire with many rabbis, and there's many departments. There's an ingredient department. There's a data entry department. There's a rabbinical department. There's a whole secretarial department. I mean, it's a tremendous operation. And it was Rabbi Levy who set the standards and who set the protocol of what is the level we will be at and how are we going to certify. So this was a great loss for us, and it's something we feel every day, but we are continuing his work. Now we get hit with COVID. COVID could be a real problem when it comes to kosher, for the simple reason that if we can't visit the facility, we might not be able to certify. So it has to be broken down, and it was broken down to different facilities and different kinds of facilities and different kinds of visits. The facilities that needed certification only with a rabbi present and what we call rabbi present, rabbi stamp, the rabbi's got to be there to sign it. If a rabbi couldn't go there, we simply did not do those runs. And many, many kosher products were not produced if the rabbi had to be there and he couldn't get there. Many companies, actually, like many companies in China, closed. Either they closed completely or they temporarily closed. If they closed completely, we didn't have a problem. If they temporarily closed, we also didn't have a problem because just like we couldn't get there, they weren't opened as well. Then there are places, and many places, where the local rabbi was able to gain access and go into the facilities. The facilities realize and they understand the importance of a rabbi coming to visit them. So it's essential for them that the rabbi come and they can keep their certification. You know, a lot of people ask me, how's the OK different from other certifying agencies?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, it's a question that's asked to us every day. And what's the difference between all the certifications? So, of course, you know, two Jews, there's three opinions. And there are different opinions of how we do certain things. But, you know, the major organizations more or less are working in tandem and working in harmony. And what's important to know is, but the OK does a few things differently than almost from all organizations. And that is that in addition to the regular rabbi going to visit companies on a weekly or monthly basis, they also get an annual inspection from their rabbinical coordinator. In most agencies, the rabbinical coordinators are the rabbis that stay in the home office, and they dictate what has to be done, how it should be done. Many of those rabbis have never actually been at the facility. They have their men at the facility. Rabbi Levy was determined that every rabbi in our main office visit the facilities which are under his responsibility. So when COVID came around, a lot of our rabbis that are based out of New York couldn't fly anywhere. So we had the local rabbis take over more inspections on that time, and they would report more often to our rabbis that are here. If there was a place that could not see a rabbi, and it was a place which we determined, is it a high risk kosher or is it a relatively lower risk kosher? How often does the rabbi go there? How many problems has he had in the past? What is their record? And what are the chances? It was a whole algorithm. What are the chances of something going wrong here? And to some locations, we did some virtual inspections like we're doing here on Zoom. Now, some people think virtual inspections, you guys like check the security camera and that's enough? It's not from the security camera. When a company is visited and has their inspection with a virtual inspection, that is usually done only for the annual inspection from the rabbi that would come from our office. And those inspections really are two parts. There's the part of talking to the administration of the company and seeing where they're headed. Are they happy with the certification? Is it easy to live with? Are they getting response from us? Do they need other sources of ingredients? Or what is it that we can help them with? That is easily done virtually. In addition, if we want to go search the facility and make it a physical inspection, but we're doing it virtually, what would happen is many of these things had to be filled out or taken care of prior to the visit. For example, they would need to send us all their bills of lading, which is like their receipts for all the ingredients that they're buying. Many times we would ask, we want also the receiving logs, what actually came in. Sometimes we ask, how much of this raw ingredient do you currently have in the facility? Do you have 5 boxes or do you have 50,000 boxes of this product? And the company has to give us all these answers and sign on these answers that this is the way it is. Then the rabbi will call one of the people that he knows in the company and feel comfortable with him at any given time when he wants to call, when the rabbi wants to call, because in general, part of giving a certification is that we make unannounced inspections. And they don't know when we're coming. So the rabbi, after he had this information, he would contact one of his contacts at the facility. And this rabbi is very, very well versed in everything that's going on in this facility. And the person that he called would pick up his telephone and FaceTime him. And the rabbi would say, bringing me into this room, bringing me into this room. Let me see that you have 50,000 pallets here. Let me see the gauges on the silos, how much stuff is in, and so on and so forth. Let me see your heating dials and things like that. So a virtual inspection, which is only done in a certain narrow kind of product, where it has a low problem of kosher. It has to have a rabbi who's very familiar with the facility. They have to have a very good track record. We have to have very low probability of having a problem. We would do a virtual inspection. And interestingly, some of these virtual inspections have come out to be very, very beneficial, even more than we ever thought they would be. So that's how we handled COVID. We currently have now a whole team of rabbis in China that just left to China. They were in quarantine for 14 days. It was part of what they went. They knew they would be in quarantine at the get-go. And now they're visiting facilities. Every day they're visiting facilities.
So it's nice to hear they're coming back. Okay. Well, we want to, first of all, thank you very much. You've covered so many things. And just before we let you go, if you could, just help us understand, if we're a consumer, we go into the grocery store, we pick up a product, it doesn't have certification, you look at it, what could be wrong? So maybe share with us what could be wrong on a product that doesn't have a certification, and not talking about obviously raw vegetables, something a prepared product. What is it that we may think, well, it looks kosher to me?
So you just mentioned raw vegetables. Even raw vegetables, you need to think about it before you buy it. First of all, you have to make sure that they aren't infested. Today, most vegetables are infested more than you could ever imagine. When I was a kid growing up, I don't remember ever that there should be this whole idea that you have to check the vegetables. I remember romaine lettuce before Pesach, before the Seder. We knew the romaine lettuce you have to wash and check. But as time went on, today they don't spray pesticides like they used to. And there's no question about it that is more infestation than there ever was. So many times before you buy something, you need to make sure that you actually, that they're insect-free. God, in his infinite wisdom, how he created the world, the bugs on strawberries are yellow. They look just like the seeds. The bugs on the aphids or the bugs on lettuce are green. And some of them are very difficult to see. As a matter of fact, one of the main jobs of a mashgiach in a restaurant, in a food service facility, is actually preparing vegetables to make sure that they're insect-free and they're clean. Many of us don't even know how to look for these bugs and for these insects. But sometimes you see one ant on the floor or one ant on your windowsill, and then you see another one, and then another. All of a sudden you see 10,000, a million. That's how it is when you're looking for the infestation in vegetables. So that's one thing that needs to be looked at, and you have to make sure that they're insect-free. As a matter of fact, if you go to our website, we have a book there that you can download, tells you the best method of washing all kinds of vegetables and what we found to work and to be a good way how to wash them. That's one thing. Another thing you have to be very careful of vegetables, you have to make sure they don't come from Israel. Because if they come from Israel, they have a whole set of new rules of the gifts, the trumot and masrot that you have to give to the Kohen. It could be arla from the first 3 years of grown. This coming year is going to be the sabbatical year, Shemitah. You might say, I'm in Chicago. What do I get from Israel? Come on. But, Costco, for example, wants to patronize the Jewish people in many places, and they get peppers, and it says on the peppers, product of Israel. This is something you have to keep an eye out. So you just mentioned the vegetables. That's why I brought up that even vegetables.
You can't make Jews happy. You get them tomatoes from Greece, they love. You get them tomatoes from Israel, anti-Semites.
Exactly. So you have to be careful even on vegetables. Now, why can't you trust the label? Because the label will only tell you part of the story. It won't tell you the entire story. First, it won't tell you what kind of equipment it was made on. So you can have a cookie or whatever it is, and you think it's completely parv. It actually was made on dairy equipment. Right there you go. I'll give you a very famous example that actually put me on the cover of the Wall Street Journal.
I get you the best guys. I get you covered the Wall Street Journal, guys. I'll get you something.
There was a chocolate chip that was sold by Trader Joe's. That was parv. And also one day, the OK labeled it dairy. And people just hit the roof. They, what do you mean? How could you make our chocolate chips dairy? That is crazy.
I remember it was a sad day.
And they read the ingredients, and there was no milk ingredient in the product. So many just decided it was a mistake. It's really parv because the label says it's parv. Other people said, oh, it must have meant that maybe it was just made on dairy equipment, so they wrote that it was dairy. That could be sometimes for different reasons, but the actuality of this chip was that there were many real dairy chips, even though it was a semi-sweet bag. And the way that came to be was that it used to be that when they ran their dairy chips, when they finished, they would stop production. They would physically clean out the machines. They would visually inspect the whole machines. They would run a parv run through the machine, then test the parv chocolates in their lab to make sure that there was no trace of any dairy. And then they would stop. Then they would start to package and produce the semi-sweet, which is the parv cheese, the parv chocolate. The reason why the company was so strict about this, because they were afraid that people that are lactose intolerant might buy a parv chip that says parv and has no dairy, and they might have some kind of reaction. So they were extra super careful to make sure that this chocolate chip has no dairy in it whatsoever. But the people that are lactose intolerant, some of them are really, really sensitive. And they can even detect 1 part per billion, not million, per billion. That's why you actually could see parv chocolate that says may contain traces of dairy. They're actually parv according to the Torah. May contain traces of dairy because they might be making dairy in the same facility at the other side, and there might be some milk powder floating in the air. And that would be enough for someone who's lactose intolerant and very severely allergic to have a reaction. So now the company that was so careful about making sure they don't mix their dairy and their parv, they said, you know, we can't take this anymore. And if you're lactose intolerant, just don't buy our chocolate. Because they just stopped their production for a half a day. They were losing a lot of valuable time and money by cleaning and wiping and testing. So they said, you know what? No, just don't buy our chocolate. And we are just going to run the parv immediately after the dairy. So what happened was the first packets of parv chocolate were full of dairy, little chocolate kisses or little chocolate chips. And as the day went on, there was less dairy and less dairy and less dairy. But there were chips, there were bags that had real dairy chips in it. And if anybody called me and I said, listen, if your child is lactose intolerant, under no circumstances should you serve them this chocolate. Wow. And guess what? If you have a soul, a neshama, then your neshama might be allergic to something which is not kosher in the proper way that you don't want to eat it. So if we say that it's dairy, it's dairy. So here was a perfect example of trying to read the ingredients and that you can find out really what's going on. In a more general sense, you don't know the equipment that it's made on, and you don't know any of the processing aids that are used as well. When you make cookies in your house, you spray the pan with the cookie sheet with maybe Pam. That's not part of the ingredients. That's a release agent to make sure that the cookies don't stick. Mm-hmm. That won't be included on the ingredient panel. When you make beer, it foams. We all know when you pour a cup of beer, the foam is all part of it. How do they manufacture this in the manufacturing facility? Isn't there foam all over the place? I mean, how do they pour beers from one vat to the other? They need to use something, a defoaming agent. That's really not part of the ingredients. And you would never know what it actually is. A good defoamer happens to be milk, just for an example. So that's why when a person has a heartburn, they drink milk. It settles the foam. You feel a little better after that. So here's another example of something that might be in a product that you don't even know and it would never say on the label. And, you know, it might say sometimes all natural ingredients, natural flavors. Flavors is a very, very complicated issue. We have a company, one of the largest flavor companies in the world. They produce about 70, 80 new flavors every single day. Every day. So if you are making an ice cream, what is the difference between Ben and Jerry's ice cream and Haagen-Dazs? Vanilla is vanilla. Why do they all taste different? Or yogurt, when you buy yogurt, blueberry yogurt, trust me, the yogurt doesn't taste like blueberries because of the 2 little blueberries that they put. That's just to let you know that it's blueberry yogurt. But actually, they're putting in flavor. And flavors, you could think of it as like colors. Just like there's food coloring, there's food flavors. And there are thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of flavors. Some of them never even go to market. They're just in research. And, if you made some kind of really good concoction and it freezes well, it doesn't get hard, it still stays soft, and you say, this would be a great ice cream if it tasted good. Guess what? You can go to a flavor house and say, give me a vanilla chocolate and some other flavor, and they will produce a custom flavor just for you. This flavor might have 100, 200 ingredients. This flavor might be a flavor of mix of 2 other flavors that are mixed together. And then they'll give you this flavor. You'll maybe have a test panel of 100 people, and you'll see which vanilla they like better. So in the beginning, they called it regular vanilla, then French vanilla, American vanilla. After a while, it's just numbers now because they ran out of names. It's flavor number 5736AB911. And these are proprietary, secrets, very proprietary information of how they made this flavor. And guess what? If you like the flavor and you choose this vanilla flavor, and then most people like this flavor, you'll have a winner. You'll have a big deal on your hands. So when they say flavors right then and there is a dead giveaway, must have certification. They are very potent ingredients, even if they're in the smallest amounts, but they make a real difference. People that can taste it, experts taste it immediately, that it's a different flavor. Even the smallest, ask someone who drinks wine, they'll tell you it has hints of cherry and lemon and flavor and things. There are people that can taste it. So it's really, really very important. All natural flavors, that also is no reason to give it a kosher pass because, pork is also natural. So it's really important to get a certification, and we really cannot look at the label and determine from the label itself if it's kosher.
Fantastic. Well, Rabbi Fogelman, thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing all this wonderful information. We really appreciate it. Gives us a whole new appreciation for what's going on in the factory level. Mel has a question. I know it. Mel always has a question.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rabbi Fogelman. It's amazingly interesting. I just wonder, when you were talking about how it comes to the product and your company, what kind of financial arrangement is there? There must be to support this great enterprise. How does that work?
I can tell you how it works by the OK, how we work it.
Yeah.
And how other agencies work. There are other agencies that charge a percentage.
Wow.
We don't do that because then we have a vested interest in selling more product, and it's principle we don't think that's morally correct. So when you call us to give a certification, the determining factor of what the price will be is how much work do we need to put into this facility to set up and maintain its kosher status. Does it need to be visited once a week? Does it need to be visited once a month, or maybe quarterly? Or does it need a rabbi full time? That's going to determine what this certification is going to cost. Do you have 9 ingredients, or do you have 50 ingredients? Do you have lots of paperwork? Because in order to get a certification, in our organization, it's just not telling us the ingredients. We need to know your ingredients. We need to have a formula, which is the top secret of the company, of what is going into every product. You don't need to tell us the amounts. We don't need to know the amounts. Sometimes you don't even want to know the amounts. And we sign a confidentiality agreement with all these companies. Mm-hmm. And if we wouldn't hold to our standard and who we are, we wouldn't have many companies to certify in no time. And yes, there are companies that have great big secrets and they don't want to give the formula. So we tell them, put something else into the formula that you're actually not using. But that will have to be approved by us as well. So we'll get the complete formula with an addition of something which we don't know what is the addition. So now the company can feel more relaxed. Our job is to make it easy for the companies to get their certification. If we imply so many rules and regulations that they can't live with, we're just setting them up to fail. Gone are the days, at the OK anyway, gone are the days where the rabbi came to catch you doing something wrong. There is an amount of that as well. But today it's on a different level. Today there's open communications. I would say our companies, why go around when it's so easy to speak to the rabbi and see, find a solution. And we try very hard to develop a personal relationship And our companies feel this is my rabbi. I don't want to go behind his back. I want to do my best to work it out. And he knows that we're on the same side. We're trying to work it out with him. So when it comes to see how much certification is going to cost, it's basically boils down to how much work do we need to put into it. If we have to send a rabbi, let's say once a week, sometimes he's in a location, he's in New York. There's a dime a dozen here. We got a lot of rabbis can go there, no time. How about if it's out in Utah somewhere, where the rabbi has to travel 4 hours to get to the facility? Or how about if it's in Bangkok and a rabbi has to fly out there, it takes him a day. He has a half a day flying. We use a local rabbi, but it's a half a day flight, being there an hour or two, and then a half a day back. So that's going to determine what the price of certification is. And, it works. Sometimes it works against us to take a food service. In truth, a food service that only has 10 tables, which I would give a blessing to all the food service in the whole of America, especially New York, that they should survive this terrible, crazy situation that they're in. But for us to certify a restaurant, for example, that has 10 tables, or a restaurant that has 150 tables, on our side, it's almost the same amount of work. If we're approving 50 pounds of a product or 150,000 pounds of the product, for us, really, there's not much of a difference. Maybe you'll need an extra rabbi in a bigger facility or so on, in a bigger food facility or something like that. But the bottom line is, it's how much work do we need to put in? And that's what the certification is going to cost. And many of our companies say going kosher was the best investment they ever made, because going kosher happens to be a very small investment. Most of the time, it's really just a few $1,000s for the year. And with that, you gain an entire new segment, an entire new area to sell your product. A company has told me, if I want to set out and make an advertisement campaign in a major magazine or a major paper, that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's a big, big proposition to run it every week just so I can gain a little bit more, a bigger share of the market. Kosher is actually a great investment because on dollars and cents wise, you get a lot for your buck.
Fantastic.
Very good.
Wow. Wonderful. We appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you so much. Wish everybody a Freilich and Hanukkah. Of course, tomorrow night is the first night of Hanukkah. Remember, starting tomorrow night for the nights of Hanukkah, we're going to be joining together with the Chabad houses here in Illinois every night, 8 nights, 8 lights, 8 reflections at 8 o'clock. So that's going to be for Hanukkah, and I'll be sending out the special Zoom information for that. So thank you to Rabbi Fogelman. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the good work that you're doing to help provide kosher food all around the world, and for the difficulties that we're all dealing with, and for persevering throughout them. We wish you a Freilich and Hanukkah, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
It was-
Thank you.
It
Interesting.
was really fascinating.
All
Yeah,
right.
interesting.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. Freilich and Hanukkah.